Welcome to the Big Seven Stories on Wells Television, your wholesome TV station. If you're new to this TV channel or this YouTube channel, I say welcome. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I just need you to do one more thing for me, okay? I want you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's right there below. You see the subscribe button. Just click on the subscribe button. Then there's a bell right next to it. Also click on that bell. It'll help to alert you whenever we drop new videos. Welcome to the Big Seven Stories once again, your weekly roundup of the most significant events that have shaped Nigeria and the world over this past week. I am Bolanle Udueku Ayola, and just as usual, this week I've brought you the 7 biggest stories that you need to know about from this past week, from the security crisis, economic updates, international drama, and national headlines. Thank you for joining me. Let's go straight to our first story. Our top story this week. Now, over the past week, fresh waves of violence have continued to sweep northern and central Nigeria following recent U.S. airstrikes targeting the Islamic State, that's the ISIS-linked militants in Sokoto State, and some of these attacks have left these communities in fear and mourning. You recall that, as I said last week, there were U.S. strikes on Christmas morning on ISIS-linked militants in Sokoto State. And as an aftermath of this, between December 25 and January 2nd, at least 47 people have been killed and 35 others abducted in coordinated assaults by bandits, Boko Haram members, ISWAP fighters across Adamawa, Zamfara, Kwara, Plateau, Nasarawa, Yobe, and Kano states. Now, these kidnappings and raids in northwest and north central regions, for example, we have Kogi State, where bandits abducted residents during night raids. In Kwara State, more than 8 people were kidnapped. We also had coordinated village attacks where on December 24, some gunmen struck some places in Kebbi State, killing at least 8 people. Meanwhile, in Zamfara State as well, attackers abducted 16 women, killed 2 people, and injured several others. In Plateau State as well, there were 7 farmers who were killed during an assault. While in Nasarawa State, 3 were killed and 9 wounded on December 31st. Also, we had roadside ambushes and kidnapping of travelers. For example, on December 26th, bandits abducted 5 travelers along the Ogbe-Egbe Road, injuring 1 person. Also, women and children traveling from Wanke to Gusau were also kidnapped, although thankfully they were later rescued by security forces. We also heard that ISWAP militants reportedly fired mortars at a Nigerian military camp in Yobe State, but details of the damages there have not been disclosed. And more than anything, these attacks are just revealing the diverse and coordinated tactics of the insurgent groups present in Nigeria. From mass kidnapping, coordinated raids on villages, ambushes, roadside abductions, and so on and so forth. These assaults have spanned the northwest, the north central, and the northeast regions, ever since the 25th up until January 2nd. And we'll continue monitoring this because we're also hearing from our military personnel that, they're doing a lot. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, about 7,000 new forest guards graduated, and the president said they should be deployed immediately. And so we hope that, with all of this, the government realizes that it's not just a one-time thing. The retaliation from the government, it's not supposed to be a one-time thing. It's supposed to be, something you pound them mercilessly until they, have no other choice than to leave. We'll continue to monitor this closely. Next, we move to our second story. On New Year's Day, President Bola Tinubu, in his presidential address, said 2026 will mark the beginning of a more robust phase of growth for Nigeria's economy. In his New Year message to Nigerians, the president highlighted that despite persistent global economic headwinds, the country closed 2025 on a strong note with steady quarterly GDP growth and inflation easing closer to government targets. He also noted that reforms in fiscal policy, monetary management, and exchange rate stability have also set the stage for deeper economic expansion in 2026. He says that according to official projections, Nigeria recorded growth in every quarter of 2025, with annualized GDP expected to exceed 4%, supported by robust trade surpluses, an improved foreign exchange position, and stronger investor confidence. The Nigerian stock market as well, according to the president, also overperformed many of its peers. He said this reflected renewed optimism amongst market players. And looking ahead, the president revealed that the government plans to accelerate inclusive development through initiatives like the Renewed Hope Ward Development Program, which aims to bring at least 10 million Nigerians into productive economic activity by empowering at least 1,000 people in each of the country's 8,809 wards. He noted that some of the priority sectors include agriculture, trade, food processing, as well as mining. And he says that the goal for this is to stimulate local economic activity and job creation. He also pledged to continue investments in areas like roads, power, ports, railways, airports, healthcare, as well as education. He said he would strengthen food security and improve quality of life nationwide. All of this said and done, some critics have said that, the success of all of this will depend on sustained reforms and improved security. We all know that, you can't really do much once there's no, proper security. And I think that I would agree when I say that that's the first place that we should start from, ensuring proper security for all Nigerians. On our third story on the Big Seven Stories, we're turning to Oyo State, where a lot has been happening over the week. Now, over the past week, the former governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Fayose, dropped a bombshell. He said that the federal government had, this was after Governor Makinde's media chat, and then he dropped a document on social media saying that after the Bodija explosion that happened in Ibadan, that the federal government gave the sum of 50 million naira to the Oyo State government to help the people who were affected during the bomb blast. Now, before that time, we had only seen in the papers and we had heard from the Oyo State government that the money spent during that period was about 4-point-something billion naira, right? And now with Mr. Fayose dropping this document that says that 50 billion naira was approved, for the Oyo State government, many questions have been asked over the past week. Now, officials of the Oyo State government have said that it's not 50 billion that was released. 50 billion was approved. Yes, they went as far as releasing a document, which we'll put up there. They released a document, saying that, well, initially 100 million was actually what we asked for. And then the federal government approved 100 billion rather, and the federal government approved 50 billion. And then released only 30 billion as an intervention package. And they're saying that before that intervention package could get to them, they had already used state funding to, serve as intervention package for these people. They had given out money to some people, which we confirmed. They had given out money to some of the residents who lost their homes in the blast, even though some of them complained that the monies were not given according to, the extent of what was lost. But that aside, so the state government said basically that they had given these monies this from the pocket of the state government, and they had done the intervention before the federal government even sent the 30 billion naira, even going as far as to tell the citizens to, that you can go to the First Bank, which apparently is the bank used by the government. You can go to First Bank and ask for the statement of the account, which we have seen snapshots of the account statement. Now, according to Oyo State's commissioners for budget and economic planning and information as well, so they are saying that this 30 billion naira remains intact and available for use once the full federal intervention package is received and cleared for deployment. But many have pointed out so many things. Some people said that how do you have 30 billion for over 2 years, or at least over a year, and there's no interest being accrued. The bank in question, because the snapshot we saw had 30 billion on the dot, right? And so they say that the bank, no charges have been deducted from the 30 billion, no interest has accrued on the 30 billion. Some say it's a current account, and so interest may not accrue. And there's just been so much from private individuals to political parties, as some have suggested that if the Oyo State government does not need that money, they should return the funds to the federal government so that these funds can be deployed for other purposes to states that actually need the money. Moving on to our next story on the Big 7 stories. The federal government this week approved the write-off of significant debts owed by the NNPCL, that's the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, to the Federation account. Now, this decision, basically what it involves is the cancellation of approximately $1.42 billion and 5.57 trillion naira in legacy obligations previously recorded in the government books. Now, the reconciled figure covered a large portion of outstanding liabilities that had accumulated for a while through to December 31st, 2024, including amounts linked to production sharing contracts, direct sales and purchases, joint venture operations, as well as similar arrangements between the NNPC and the government. Now, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives said the write-off reflects improved transparency and reconciliation of records and is a testament to the current leadership's efforts to clean up the NNPCL's balance sheet and strengthen fiscal reporting. But the decision has drawn widespread criticism and even legal scrutiny from civil society groups and political parties. They're saying that this write-off may be constitutionally questionable and could even reduce the revenue legally due to the revenue that is due to the Federation account. It could reduce it, and we know that this FAC, the money that comes from the Federation account, is what the federal, state, and local governments depend upon. And also, the NNPC's financial relationship has been something that many have not understood, because today they come out to say that, oh, we made a profit. Tomorrow they come out to say, oh, we've hit our target and more, but they need help in cancelling debts. There's so many questions around this particular decision by President Bola Tinubu and the federal government, and we hope that in due time we will get the answers. Moving on to our next story on the Big 7 stories for today. On the foreign scene, in a development that is sending shockwaves across Latin America and beyond, U.S. President Donald Trump announced today the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, following what he described as a large-scale military strike on Venezuela. Now, according to President Trump, he says that Maduro and his wife have been flown out of Venezuela, but we don't know where exactly they are at the moment. And there's been a national emergency announced in Venezuela. Apparently, if you see pictures on the web, pictures of some places in Venezuela, especially in the capital, Caracas, being bombed. And the authorities of Venezuela are demanding immediate proof of life for their president and his wife. And we've heard from U.S. officials saying that President Maduro will stand trial in the United States on a series of criminal charges, including narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed the indictment, describing Maduro and his wife as alleged international narcotic traffickers who will soon face the full wrath of American justice on U.S. soil. Some eyewitnesses in Caracas have reported explosions and plumes of smoke rising over the city. And, well, this operation appears to have succeeded, but it's really somehow, because is this the right thing to do? This is very unprecedented. Is it the right thing to do to invade a country and take the president and the president's wife because you believe that they've done something wrong? What happened to, reporting to the ICC? And this is a question that many are asking. As a matter of fact, even international reaction on this has been cautious. For example, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the UK was not involved in the operation. He also said that, there was the need to establish all facts before taking a position. And everyone is being careful because they don't want to upset President Trump, but at the same time, they do know that what has happened here is wrong. And President Maduro's removal is raising urgent questions about the future of Venezuelan governance. When the president is away, who exactly is governing Venezuela? These are very serious questions that need to be asked. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has deployed security forces along the border in anticipation of a potential refugee influx. So Venezuelans have been locked out from, some other countries as well. And some observers on social media are comparing this to 1990 capture of Panamanian leader Manuel Noriega, noting similarities in the U.S. military involvement, legal charges rather, and disputed electoral claims. President Trump has promised to hold a press conference in his Mar-a-Lago residence, and we'll wait for that, and so that we can keep you up to date with that particular story. And back here at home in sports, on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, British-Nigerian boxing star Anthony Joshua was involved in a fatal car crash that killed his strength coach, Sinagami, and trainer Latif Lats Ayodele, while Joshua and the driver sustained minor injuries. The driver, Adeni Mubolaji Kayode, has now been charged with multiple offenses, including dangerous and reckless driving, causing death by dangerous driving, and driving without a valid license. And he's been granted bail, but he's still in custody because the case has been adjourned to January 20, 2026. Now, authorities have said that preliminary investigations are pointing to excessive speed and tire failure as some of the contributing facts in the collision. And this tragedy has sparked renewed discussions about road safety on some of our Nigerian highways, asking questions about why we can't just have ambulances, because Anthony Joshua was taken to the hospital in a car. So many things have been said. Also, we have to look at the response of the average Nigerian to accidents on the highway. As we saw in that very cringy video, which we're not going to show here, we saw many people not doing much, just trying to film someone who was in his lowest hours. This guy had just, been involved in an accident, lost two of his friends, and then what many Nigerian citizens were interested in doing was to be citizen journalists and film him. His uncle, in an interview with the Punch newspaper, even said that his phone was stolen at that port. Well, this wraps up our Big 7 stories for the week. An in-depth look at security challenges, economic forecasts, state governance issues, and international developments, all right here on the Big 7 stories. Please stay with us for more news and detailed analysis throughout the week, and join me particularly again next week, right here on Wells Television. I know I didn't say this earlier, but I reserved the best for the last. Happy New Year. I hope that this new year brings you all the good things that you want. My name is Bolanle Udueku Ayola, and this is Wells Television. Thank you. Bye-bye.